Welcome to Raja Ace Academy. In this video, we are going to see the news related to BRICS organization. Dear students, recently China has proposed that the membership of BRICS should be expanded from just 5 countries, that is Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, to include other countries as well. And the summit that was recently organized, this meeting, it was called as BRICS Plus because 9 additional countries participated in it. So we are now going to see what is BRICS, how did it evolve, what is the underlying philosophy in this BRICS organization, and then we are going to see what are the prospects of BRICS with respect to India and what are the issues and challenges associated with it, and in the end we are going to see what is BRICS Plus. So let's begin. So the first question is, why come together? Why will different countries come together? See students, the first thing is that a state is a sovereign entity. That is, they organize, they have rule over their territory. But in the international arena, their influence is dependent on their economic capabilities, their military capabilities and their cultural capabilities. So some countries are powerful and other countries are not. After the post-Cold War era, the unipolar world emerged with the domination of United States of America. And the United States of America came to dominate almost all the world organization, including the United Nations, World Bank, International Monetary Fund, etc. So these developed countries, when they come to dominate, there was a counter reaction by the developing countries, and these developing countries wanted to exert their influence in the international arena. So they came together. And one such organization is BRICS, where these developing countries came together to exert their influence in the international arena. Okay, and when developing countries come together, we call that South-South cooperation as well, because in international relation terminology, we differentiate countries based on developed and developing. So developed countries are generally referred to as North and developing countries are generally referred to as South. So when there is a cooperation between the developed countries and developing countries, we refer to them as North-South cooperation. And when there is a cooperation, be it economic, be it technological, between the developing countries, we call that South-South cooperation. So BRICS organization is one such example of South-South cooperation. Further, what is the news related to this video? So in this news, as we already discussed, China has proposed that the membership should be expanded, and this view was presented in a meeting where 9 additional countries were participating. These were Argentina, Egypt, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Nigeria, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Senegal and Thailand. Okay, so it was a kind of BRICS Plus meeting because other countries apart from the BRICS countries were participating in it. So this is the concept of BRICS Plus that is emerging. It was already put forward in 2017 by the Chinese so that the membership of BRICS can be expanded. Moving forward, now we are going to see how did the BRICS evolve. Students, the BRICS did not evolve in its present form. Earlier it was known as BRIC, that is Brazil, India, Russia and China. The underlying philosophy was put forward by Goldman Sachs. So in this, they classified these countries as BRIC countries based on their economic capabilities, whereby they predicted that these countries will be very influential by the year 2050. So they grouped these countries, and as a result, BRIC came into being. Which in 2010 was joined by South Africa as well, and now we know it as BRICS when the South Africa joined it as well. Now, what is the location of these 5 countries? These are located on 4 different continents: Asia, Europe, South Africa and South America. Brazil, South Africa, India, China and Russia. So students, when you are seeing this map, you can see that they are not neighbors per se, because China and India as well as Russia, they have their common boundaries, but Brazil and South Africa, they are located on entirely different continents. So there is a geographical separation between the BRICS countries, which will be seeing that it is also an issue related to BRICS, because geographical separation does not bode well for any organization. Generally the organizations are regional in nature, and that is why there is greater connectivity and exchanges. But in this BRICS organization, the geographical separation is more, because of which their connectedness is hampered. This is one of the point that you can mention in your mains answer related to BRICS organization. Moving forward, what is the significance of BRICS, students? What is the significance of BRICS? The BRICS is a very significant organization, because as an organization, it constitutes 42% of the global population. It contributes around 23% of the global GDP, and it constitutes 30% of the global territory, that is the area of these countries put together, and then it also contributes to 18% of the global trade. So these four significant data is related to economy and demography as well as geography. Okay, so moving on, what are the pillars of BRICS organization? The first pillar is political and security. That is, they want to enhance the dialogues between the BRICS countries on global and regional security and developmental issues. Okay. The second pillar is economical and financial, which we are going to see in just a while, that how the BRICS organization has made a financial architecture of its own using New Development Bank as well as the contingency reserve arrangement. So this is the second pillar of BRICS organization. And the third pillar of BRICS organization is to increase the people-to-people exchanges and cultural exchanges. Okay, so these are three pillars of BRICS organization. And when we are talking about increasing people-to-people connectivity, how can we forget the tracks of diplomacy? See students, there are three tracks of diplomacy. The first is where the officials of the government participate. When they are exchanging diplomacy, then we call that track 1 diplomacy. And when non-officials are on the site, then we call that track 2 diplomacy. But here it is important to learn about what is track 3 diplomacy. That is when people to people contact increases. That is track 3 diplomacy. Students, when a tourist is coming from other country, or when Indians are going to other countries and exchanging their cultures, that is an example of track 3 diplomacy. Indian diaspora also contributes to track 3 diplomacy. We often call the Indian diaspora as unofficial ambassadors of India in other countries. For example, when there was a US civil nuclear deal going on between USA and India, the Indian diaspora in USA exerted a lot of influence to make that deal successful. So that is an example of track 3 diplomacy. Moving forward, now we are going to see the financial architecture of BRICS. See students, traditionally the Bretton Woods institution, that is the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, they are dominated by United States of America and other developed countries. How they are dominated? They are dominated by United States of America having disproportionate voting rights. They have virtual veto in deciding which country get finances and which country does not get finances. So in order to break free of this trap, the southern countries, that is the developing countries, they established a bank of their own. Called New Development Bank. And the basic philosophy of this New Development Bank is that all the members have equal rights, equal voting rights, equal percentage of finances in that bank. And the other architecture that is present in the BRICS is contingency reserve arrangement. Contingency reserve arrangement, students, is an alternative to International Monetary Fund. So we can see how New Development Bank is an alternative to World Bank, and contingency reserve arrangement is an alternative to International Monetary Fund. Now let's see what New Development Bank is all about. New Development Bank, students, is truly new in nature. While World Bank was established during the United Nations emergence, the World New Development Bank, it was established recently in 2014 only through Fort Laser Declaration. It is important for prelims point of view, where we can ask that what is New Development Bank, where is the headquarter located, and how are the rights to vote distributed among the members of New Development Bank. Okay, so the leaders signed the agreement establishing the New Development Bank to mobilize resources and for infrastructure sustainable development projects in BRICS and other emerging economies. Students, please pay emphasis to this statement. The finances, the mobilizing of resources is not just limited. It is not just limited to BRICS countries. But other developing economies as well. So what was the Fort Laser Declaration? It lays down the basic philosophy of New Development Bank only. Okay, so it has the initial authorized capital of $100 billion. It is an initial capital of $100 billion, and initial subscribed capital shall be $50 billion, that is 50% of what is authorized. Okay, $50 billion is the subscribed capital, and it is shared equally among the 5 members. So what will each member get? They will get $10 billion. Okay, $10 billion each. Then the first chair of the board of governors shall be from Russia. Okay, see the equality in how they are governing the bank itself. The first chair of the board of governors shall be from Russia. The first chair of the board of directors shall be from Brazil. The first president of the bank shall be from India. The headquarters of the bank itself will be located in the Shanghai city of China. Okay, and where is South Africa? The South Africa will get the New Development Bank Africa Regional Center. It will be established in South Africa. Okay, so you can see how the New Development Bank shares the philosophy of equality among its members, unlike the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. In fact, the Asian Development Bank, it is also dominated by USA and China. So it is also an alternative to Asian Development Bank as well. Okay. Now we are going to see what is the contingency reserve arrangement. Contingency reserve arrangement, in order to understand, you can simply find it as an alternative to International Monetary Fund. What does International Monetary Fund do? IMF provide finances to those countries who are undergoing a balance of payment crisis, that is, they are not able to pay for their imports. Similar is the function of contingency reserve arrangement. The BRICS contingent reserve arrangement is a framework for the provision of support through liquidity and precautionary instruments in response to actual or potential short-term balance of payment pressures. The similar function as IMF. Okay, it was established in 2015. Recall, when was the New Development Bank established? It was established in 2014. The contingency reserve arrangement, that is CRA, it was established in 2015. Okay, students, by the countries, BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Further, the CRA is generally seen as a competitor to International Monetary Fund, and along with New Development Bank is viewed as an example of increasing South-South cooperation. What is South-South cooperation? We already discussed. South-South cooperation is when the developing countries are standing up for each other in technical as well as economic cooperation. Okay, that is South-South cooperation. Moving forward, what are the other areas of cooperation among the BRICS countries? It includes cooperation on health by by the UFA declaration, there was an agreement which included cooperation on pandemic infectious diseases, spread of infectious diseases. Okay, because these are developing countries, they are suffering from various infectious diseases. In fact, you may recall that the COVID-19 pandemic itself emerged from China. So the BRICS countries, they have UFA declaration for health cooperation to develop capabilities on infectious diseases arrangement. Okay. Then there is science, technology and innovation. What is the cooperation on science, technology and innovation? There is a BRICS Science, Technology and Innovation Framework Program that was pioneered in 2015. It helped scientists and researchers to stay connected and effectively exchange their findings to better facilitate a response to COVID-19 pandemic. So you can see the BRICS is also relevant in the present scenario. Sometimes a question comes whether this organization is relevant or not, okay, whether that organization is relevant or not. The common question is whether non-aligned movement is relevant or not in this present scenario. Similarly, there might come a question that whether BRICS is relevant in present scenario or not. There you can mention this point that yes, BRICS is very much relevant because they have a cooperation apart from financial domain. They have cooperation in many other domains such as health, such as science, technology and innovation. Moving forward, there is security cooperation as well. The BRICS, they are increasingly being vocal about the terrorism across the world. So there is a security cooperation as well. The meetings of National Security Advisor and working groups exchange their approaches on international security threats and on international crimes such as drug trafficking, cyber attacks, money laundering, corruption, terrorism. So these are the common threats that are present across the world, and because they are present across the world, international cooperation is needed, and BRICS is one such organization that is providing cooperation on these important matters. And the other area of cooperation is, of course, business cooperation. BRICS Business Council and Business Forum. BRICS Business Council and Business Forum are the main mechanism of business cooperation inside the grouping. Okay. Currently, the council already has 9 working groups for subjects like infrastructure, manufacturing, energy, agribusiness, financial services, regional aviation, harmonization of capacity levels and capacity development. Okay, so there are already working groups on various relevant sectors such as agribusiness. Students, agribusiness is very much relevant for India as well as other developing economies including Brazil, China. Okay, so these are very much relevant sector. These are very much relevant sectors for the developing economies, and hence there are working groups on that. Further, BRICS Rapid Information Security Channel to promote the exchange of information on cyber threats among their central banks. So you can see how BRICS is changing with the present world as well. It is very a dynamic organization. It is also addressing cyber threats with respect to financial world as well. Moving forward, what is the importance of BRICS for India? We have seen how the BRICS is still relevant in the present world. Now we are going to see how is it important for India. It is important for India because it is the voice of developing countries. In the starting of the video, we discussed how developing countries come together to exert their influence in the international arena. So BRICS is providing a voice for the developing country. It has appeared to be the voice of developing countries facing an aggressive club of developed countries. How are they aggressive? They are aggressive in each and every domain. They want to establish and expand their military influence. They want to expand their business and economic influence. So they are very aggressive club of developed countries, raising challenges on issues from WTO to climate change. See, in climate change negotiations, the developed countries were trying to to put the onus of climate change on developing countries as well. Now see, industrial revolution, it started with Britain and then it expanded to Europe and other developed countries such as America. So they have more responsibility to address the issue of climate change, and yet now they want equality, that every country should put equal efforts in addressing the issue of climate change, while they have contributed most to the climate change, and developing countries, they have very sustainable nature of economies along their past. So there should be common but differentiated responsibilities, and developed countries always try to put the onus on developing countries to equally address the issue of climate change. So this is how climate change, the voice of developing countries should reach climate change negotiations as well. Okay. Further, global grouping, India is actively pursuing for strengthening multilateralism and membership for United Nations Security Council. See, in economic survey 2-3 years back, there was a term highlighted, hyper globalization repudiation. It meant that now the countries, they are looking inward, they are shying away from multilateral cooperation, be it World Trade Organization or other international organization, especially because of the United States, it wanted to look inward. Okay, so under the presidency of Donald Trump. So when in other countries they were increasingly looking inward, India was the one of such country that wanted multilateral rule based framework. So in this sense also the BRICS is relevant, that it can strengthen multilateralism and membership for United Nations Security Council. The permanent membership of United Nations Security Council has not expanded and it is still limited to 5 countries only, which is a very out of date representation. Okay. And nuclear suppliers group, and hence support of BRICS is necessary to achieve membership through consultation on mutual interest. As you can see, the BRICS itself has two countries, that is China and Russia, as permanent members of United Nations Security Council. So it is a relevant organization where India can voice its interest that yes, we also want to become a permanent member of United Nations Security Council. Furthermore, global financial governance, BRICS members calls for reforming global institutions such as United Nations, World Trade Organization, World Bank, International Monetary Fund to get adequate and equitable voting rights. That we already discussed, that the voting rights in these organizations are not equal. Furthermore, voice against terrorism, India is very much troubled by the terrorism. India has been facing state sponsored cross-border terrorism from Pakistan for decades now. But in BRICS, China has been shielding Pakistan. India hopes to continue to work with other BRICS countries to reach an understanding with China on the issue of cross-border terrorism. So terrorism also emerged as an issue among the BRICS countries. Furthermore, trade dependency, 34% of India's total imports are from other 4 BRICS nations, the majority of which are from China. Okay, now we have seen what is the importance of BRICS. For India. Now we should move forward to what are the challenges faced by BRICS. The first is very logical one. When we saw the map of BRICS countries, we already deduced from that there is a great geographical separation among the BRICS countries, okay, across the 4 different continents. Furthermore, there are significant troubles that these BRICS countries have in their neighborhood, such as India-Pakistan issue, India-China issue, China-South China Sea issue, and likewise. And then there is political coherence. Students, you might have noticed that India is a democracy in a BRICS country, but China is not. And Russia is a pseudo-democratic country, okay. Now you can see what the long lasting strong group, there should be political homogeneity. Like the European Union. European Union is a strong grouping because there is political homogeneity. Majority are democratic countries, okay. majority are democratic countries. Furthermore, what is the point related to competition? All BRICS countries aspire to be regional powers. All BRICS countries aspire to be regional power, and hence at some point some of them compete with each other. That is, these countries, they are heading for superpower position, such as India also wants to be a superpower, China also wants to be a superpower, Russia is already waging a war in Ukraine in order to get that superpower status. So you see, all these countries want to be a superpower, and how many superpowers can we really adjust in this small world? So this point is related to that. Furthermore, contradictions in trade. Brazil and Russia are commodity exporting countries, okay, and thus benefit from high commodity prices, while India and China are commodity importing countries and they benefit from low commodities prices. So their interests are also not very same with respect to international prices of different commodities. For example, if the oil prices increase in international market, it is good for what? Russia, but it is bad for India, because we already import 85% of our energy needs from other countries. Now, there is also diverging view in multilateral forums. China and Russia seem to support the inclusion of 3 other countries as permanent members, only on paper, but not in spirit. If they would have been supporting the permanent membership of India in United Nations Security Council, that India would already have been in Security Council. No, but they are only showing their interest on paper and not following that in spirit, okay, with no significant result on the ground. So there are divergent views, in fact, in this organization. And then there are lack of mutual trust and interest. So you can see how there is a territorial issue involved between India and China. India and China is also have divergent views on trade, okay, that India has a very large current account deficit with trade deficit, not current account deficit but trade deficit with China. So there is lack of mutual trust and interest as well. Now their recent summit, the latest summit, was organized as a virtual summit in month of September 2021, and it was the 13th BRICS summit. So some generic outcome was there, that was known as the New Delhi Declaration. And the theme of the summit chosen by India was intra-BRICS cooperation for continuity, consolidation and consensus. This was the theme chosen by India. So what was New Delhi Declaration? They reiterated their commitment in enhancing intra-BRICS cooperation, okay. And then in New Delhi Declaration adopted after the 13th BRICS summit, the member countries recalled their shared value of peace, rule of law, respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms and democracy for all. See, you can clearly see what are the outcomes and what the Russia is doing in the present world, okay. They pledged to promote a more inclusive, equitable and representative multipolar international system. They promote more inclusive, equitable, representative multipolar international system with the United Nations at its center. They also welcomed their decision to adopt BRICS counter-terrorism action plan for implementation of the BRICS counter-terrorism strategy. Furthermore, the BRICS countries said that they are following the latest development in Afghanistan with concern. So the issue of Afghanistan also came forward in the BRICS summit as well, okay. Furthermore, the BRICS nations also emphasize that the international community have a collective responsibility to work against the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is following the dynamics of the present world by also iterating its commitment to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Furthermore, BRICS nation pledged their resolve towards strengthening and reforming the multilateral system, strengthening and resolving the multilateral system to make global governance more responsible, agile, effective, transparent, democratic, representative and accountable to member states. Now see students, these are the keywords. These are very good, beautiful keywords that you can use in your mains answer. When you have to define an organization, when you want to define some interests of India, you can simply use these keywords: responsive, agile, effective, transparent, democratic, accountable. You are getting such keywords that you can put in your answer as it is, and you will get good marks for that as well. Okay, so this was the 13th BRICS summit. And now going back to the news, that what is BRICS Plus? BRICS Plus is nothing, students. It is basically expansion of BRICS, that is engaging other countries from the world, as well as in its meeting, as well as including them in the organization as members. So that is the idea of BRICS Plus that was put forward by China in 2017. Okay. The objective of widening the circle of friends of BRICS that can bring unity among developing countries and enhance South-South cooperation. The initiative is aimed at upping the outreach activities of BRICS countries with the global South and building wider partnerships and emerging markets and developing countries. So this is the idea of BRICS Plus, that we should be engaging more and more countries. Okay, the BRICS countries have backed the idea, the Chinese suggestion for expansion of the bloc, but an agreement on the names may be subject to protracted negotiations. That is, the agreement on the countries which should be included in among the BRICS grouping are subject to negotiations among the already 5 members. Okay. So this was all about the BRICS Plus, what is the objective of this organization, how the BRICS is performing in the contemporary world. So with this, we are going to end this video. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you so much.